Hello, and I'm finally back with this well overdue review of Predator Killer of Killers. This is partly because I've been busy with things that I'm working on outside of YouTube, but I also wanted to give the film some consideration before revealing my thoughts. The film made a fantastic start with this Yautja codex, which suited the ethos of the species perfectly, as well as the opening shot that homaged the original movie. Set in 841 AD, the first story, entitled Shield, has a beautiful reverse space odyssey transition from a Yautja craft to a Viking ship, which shows the disparity between the technological advancements of each species. Chapter 1 tells the story of Anders and his mother Ursa, who leads her warriors on an expedition to destroy their rival Zoran, who was responsible for the death of her father. She refers to her nemesis as Creature, which acts as a red herring, as we assume that she is talking about the Predator. This story mirrors the idea of an unblooded Yautja working with an elder on an initiation hunt. I felt that this story, and its protagonist Ursa, were the most fleshed out of the entire film. Ursa has a very compelling backstory, and the Viking setting for a Predator film was most intriguing to me. Personally, I thought that more could have been done with the moments in the forest where the Predator was watching from the trees. The action sequences in this story were intense, and the gore was perfectly fitting for a Predator movie. This Viking Yautja was stealthy when surveying its prey, yet brutal when uncloaked, as it used its gigantic mass to charge straight into battle. Now, I am not averse to the larger Yautja design, but I think this one is at the very limits as what I would pass as acceptable. This Predator seemed to be an amputee that replaced its fist with a buckler-style shield, which created a powerful shockwave to stun its opponents. The weapon suited the Viking setting and mirrored the primary bladed shield weapon of the protagonist, further establishing this chapter's title. The frozen backdrop for the final battle between Ursa and the Predator was spectacular, and I liked how she used her ingenuity to outsmart the beast. This was a truly awesome story that I did enjoy. However, when I saw the imprisoned Ursa along with the Japanese character, it did not take much for me to decipher where this film was going, as I already saw the fighter pilot imprisoned in the trailer. I immediately realised that the Yautja were collecting individuals who defeated predators, and it was indeed they who were the killer of killers. Therefore, the initial hunt served as a qualification round for the human hunters. Now, I must admit that I'm not a massive fan of this concept, but more about that later. The second chapter, titled Sword, is set in 1609 feudal Japan and acts as another magnificent setting for a Predator movie. This story also begins with a profound proverb. The ferocious sparring sequence between the two brothers battling for the samurai helmet also had many similarities to Yautja training with their clan brothers. Now, another interesting red herring for me was the young warrior that would later become the ninja. I assumed the more honourable character would become the samurai, and the more aggressive and agile boy wearing the darker blue costume and climbing the trees would become the ninja, but I was completely fooled here. The story cuts forward 20 years, and we have further parallels with the cloaked Yautja observing the stealthy ninja character. Yet again, the film mirrors weapons between the characters, with the ninja's Kusari Kama on a chain and the Yautja's kunai style weapon. This chapter, as the title suggests, is more about bladed weapons, and the Predator eviscerates his victims in gruesome Yautja fashion. The sequence where the ninja is chased by the Predator across the rooftops is pretty spectacular. Despite being about the revenge of one sibling against another, the two brothers unite to defeat the Yautja, which is a concept that I always enjoy. I have previously stated that a predator should be too formidable for any one human being to slay alone. The proverb bookends the story beautifully, and Trachtenberg offers us some masterful storytelling. The third chapter, titled Bullet, is set in 1942 and follows the World War II fighter pilot who is revealed to be a skillful mechanic. Unfortunately, this is where the film begins to fall apart in my opinion. Personally, I could not get on board with the Yautja using its spacecraft to obliterate inferior propeller planes from the skies. It just did not seem very Yautja to me. A loyal subscriber who will remain unnamed previously warned me about this with a comment on my trailer video, and I must say that I fully agree with him. However, it was not only the aerial battles that did not engage me. I also felt that the protagonist was the weakest of the three and pretty goofy at best. After deciphering that the Yautja sees heat, this character also uses his intelligence to trick and defeat the Predator, ultimately qualifying himself for the grand final in the process. However, if the third chapter lost my engagement, the fourth and final part only compounded matters. The notions of individuals who have successfully killed a Predator being recruited to fight in a grand final makes for an effective movie structure. However, does it work as a Predator story? In my opinion, this concept goes against the grain of the Yautja Honor Code. Initial Predator text made it clear that survivors of a Yautja hunt were honoured for their victory. However, being captured to fight others who slew a Predator before fighting yet another more difficult battle against the ultimate Yautja on enemy turf seems unfair. What chance would anyone have of surviving that? This turns the Yautja from honourable hunters to flat-track bullies in my opinion. Ultimately, we are led to believe that the Predators in this film were all bad bloods. Thankfully, the three protagonists soon realise that fighting each other before facing the most powerful Yautja alone would be a death sentence and decide to collaborate. The Viking and Ninja character do most of the fighting, whilst the pilot kind of just gets in the way at first before proving to be useful via his intelligence later on. They do put up a good fight against the hulking Yautja leader but cannot slay the beast and are forced to flee before it orders its race to go hunting. Other elements of the final chapter that I took issue with included the design language. The Yautja arena seemed very Mortal Kombat-esque and was not congruent with the Aztecian lava planet that we would expect. Even if this was not supposed to be Yautja Prime, the design style from the ships in Predator 2 and the sequence from AVPR are all absent here. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, we seem to have the Yautja's answer to Shao Kahn in the overly muscled and overly designed Yautja warlord, who I'm not a fan of.
Fight!
In my opinion, the style of these predators are so far removed from the original creature that they're starting to look like a different species entirely. I want to make it clear that I'm not against different Yautja subspecies, castes and ranks, etc. However, I am starting to get a little bored of it being used as an excuse to explain concepts that go against the original lore. Why can't we just have a 7.5 foot tall alien assassin who arrives on Earth and uses advanced weaponry to hunt the planet's deadliest creatures? What was so wrong with the original concept that we always have to change it? Change the setting. Change the hero. Change the victims. Do not change the monster. Perhaps this is why I felt that the first two stories worked best, because they stuck most closely to the original source material. Finally, we see that Ursa's body is stored as a trophy within a container, and it is revealed that Naru also fell prey to the predators after proving victorious against the feral. Basically, anyone who manages to defeat a Yautja is subsequently doomed. Killer of Killers was a story of two halves. It started off brilliantly with the first two chapters, however the final two undid so much good work. As a result, I think that this is a good film, but not a great film. It gets 3.5 stars out of 5. I really respect what Trachtenberg is doing with the Predator franchise, and he is massively talented. He has developed the lore, brought back some respect to the films, and introduced new and younger audiences to the series. However, in doing so, I think that he's moving away from many of the original concepts that made the character so successful, and is ultimately losing many of the original fans. My fascination with the Predator series started in 1987. However, as I said before, I feel that the franchise has passed me by. This is no longer my Predator, and I do not think that I am the target audience. Despite what I thought, I hope that you enjoyed this film and are looking forward to Predator Badlands. Please do not let me sway you, and feel free to put your honest opinions in the comment section. Remember to like and subscribe if you'd like to subscribe, but until next time, it's goodbye from me. Take care.